Hey, what's good, y'all? Welcome back to another video. Today we'll be talking about the NBA trade deadline that's coming up on March 25th. And let's see, like the Rockets seem to be rumored to be major sellers at the trade deadline. And it'll be interesting to see since we have guys like Victor Oladipo and PJ Tucker that are likely to be gone from the Rockets and have a new team within the trade deadline. So let's first talk about PJ Tucker. So he has been rumored to several teams that are interested. They could definitely use someone like PJ Tucker with his skill set, a guy who is known for his defensive prowess, but also has that three-point shooting stroke. But lately, PJ Tucker hasn't been that great on the defensive side. He's been kind of getting bullied by a little bigger guys. He isn't having that same kind of same kind of like opposing force in a sense. Like he's kind of getting blown by quicker guys and things like that. But I think he'll be really good off the bench. And he's been rumored to the Lakers, the Bucks, the Nets, the Sixers, the Heat, and the Celtics. And it seems like the Sixers are the front runners for PJ Tucker. So what do you think about this whole PJ Tucker situation?
I think that PJ Tucker, he's been very, very bad for us this season. But I feel like whatever team he gets traded to, I feel like his play will get better. Because, there was that whole incident where it seemed like PJ doesn't really, want to be here. So he's kind of playing down a little bit. And of course there was that one Instagram comment, I believe, that PJ Tucker said something about, something about, I think he doesn't want to be here, or, you clearly don't understand the situation. So, yeah, I think that while PJ Tucker is playing very, very bad right now, I think that, once he gets sent to his new team, whether it is Philadelphia or Brooklyn or the Lakers or whoever it may be, I feel like his play will improve.
Yeah, PJ Tucker does have some moments, usually he scores 0 points, but most of his stuff is, obviously, as we've been saying, not stuff that you see on the stat sheet. And some games, he does have some moments, though, where he has some bursts of scoring, where some games he has 7 points, some games he has 11 points, and he does look pretty agile at times. So I could see, why teams would be interested. I think a while ago there was a report that said teams would be willing to part with two second-round picks for PJ Tucker, but it seems like since now so many Eastern contenders are kind of getting into that playoff season soon, they're going to want to get someone like PJ Tucker who can give that kind of boost their defense a little bit. And if he and PJ Tucker, if he's in rhythm and he has someone good that is kind of playmaking for him in a sense, then PJ Tucker could prove to be valuable. And he's still a great locker room guy and a guy who puts his head down, doesn't really complain too much. So I think PJ Tucker would be great for any Eastern contender, and it kind of makes sense that all those Eastern Conference teams are interested since the Nets seem like the favorite to win the championship.
Yeah, and it makes sense that a team like Philadelphia or Miami, who it seems like, they're just one step behind what Brooklyn has right now as far as the team that's built for championship. Well, obviously, Philadelphia is ahead of Brooklyn in the standings, but that's because Embiid is playing like a monster. And besides Embiid, that team has been pretty average. Ben Simmons has been doing okay, but, that team's been pretty average besides Embiid. And Miami, they're just starting to get into rhythm, trying to work their way up their standings. But yeah, both of those teams are still a step behind Brooklyn, and so it makes sense that they're going after PJ Tucker. And for your comment about, having a good playmaker for a couple of these teams, for two of these teams, your point would make perfect sense. The Lakers with LeBron James and the Philadelphia 76ers with Ben Simmons, both of them are top of the league as far as playmaking ability. And I feel like PJ Tucker in either of those situations, I think, could really thrive the way he did with Harden in Houston. And obviously there is the possibility of him reuniting with Harden in Brooklyn, and that would also work very, very well for PJ Tucker as far as, reigniting his corner threat, or that threat from the corner.
Yeah, and it seems that PJ Tucker and James Harden were talking after that Rockets-Nets game, saying that maybe PJ Tucker could kind of influence the Houston management to kind of trade him there. But would the Nets be the team you would want to see PJ Tucker go to? Obviously you want PJ Tucker to win a ring, so that would probably be my team that I would want PJ Tucker to go to. What about you?
I don't really mind PJ Tucker on the Nets. I feel like Tucker, he is what Brooklyn needs. They got another guy, plays solid defense, especially for his size, and also aside from the corner. But we've also been seeing a lot of that. For those of you who have been watching Nets games, and Bruce Brown, he's been doing a lot of the work that PJ Tucker did. He's very similar to him in that an undersized defender who's been very stout inside, who's been doing work down low, and he's been doing very, very well for the Brooklyn Nets. PJ Tucker, another type of guy, very similar, a sturdy defender down low despite his a minor size, and is a threat from the corner. Bruce Brown lately has been getting a lot of threes from the corner. And so PJ Tucker and Bruce Brown, those two could be like a small sort of duo down low for Brooklyn, and I think that would be a very nice fit for PJ Tucker.
Yeah, and let's talk about Victor Oladipo. Obviously, his future with Houston is very undecided. The Houston Rockets actually tried offering him a 2-year deal extension, and Victor Oladipo turned it down. So obviously, his future in Houston is up in the air, and I think we all kind of saw it coming. I mean, Victor Oladipo has been rumored to teams like the Heat before he was traded here. So the teams that are reportedly interested in Victor Oladipo are the Knicks, the Heat, and some dark horses are the Lakers and the Nuggets. So those are a pretty interesting bunch. I think Victor Oladipo is an excellent third option. Obviously, I mean, like when we had Wood and Wall, he was amazing as the third option in my opinion. And then I think he'll kind of continue that good production with the team like the Heat behind Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, and then Lakers behind Bron and AD and things like that. So, what do you think about Victor Oladipo?
I think Oladipo could be very promising for whatever team that decides to take him. Again, very similar to what's been happening with Tucker. Oladipo is a guy who we're not 100% sure if he is really, wanting to be in Houston. And so there is always that situation of, if you trade him to a place where he wants to be, will he play better or sort of find that old Victor Oladipo before that quad injury that we know that he can be? I'm not sure, but I do feel like on whatever team that he is traded to, whether it is the Lakers or the Heat or any other team, I think he would fit quite nicely. I don't think that would be a major issue. I think it's just a matter of can he, give the Lakers or the Miami Heat the production that they think that they are getting or the production that they're looking for from Victor Oladipo, because he hasn't been giving great production for Houston so far.
I mean, yeah, he hasn't been that great until the Nets game. Remember, he played 37 minutes and had 33 points. His field goal percentage wasn't that great, 9 from 25, 5 from 11 from 3 though, and he had 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals. So it looks like he's slowly increasing his trade value. I think we'll see a Victor Oladipo trade right at the deadline just to see if Stone might kind of playing it close to the trade deadline to see if teams ramp up interest, kind of create a bidding war for Victor Oladipo, because teams are certainly interested, and he does have that defensive skill set as a two-way guard and things like that. So I mean, Victor Oladipo, like the reason for his struggles is like he has all the moves to like make it to the basket, but like when he's driving there, but he doesn't seem to finish properly, and then some threes like he kind of forces it. So that's kind of the problem there. But like when he's not like one of the main guys, I think he can be really, really good for those teams that are interested in him. And I think, yeah, like I said, I think Heat would be I would like to see deep on the Heat. That would be pretty interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think Victor Oladipo on the Heat, that would be very, very nice. Another stifling defensive piece for Miami. I mean, they already have 2 very, very good defenders in Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, and now that third piece, they would now have 3 elite two-way players. Or I guess Victor Oladipo isn't elite anymore, but 2 above average to elite two-way players in Butler, Adebayo, and Oladipo. And I think that would be a very sleeper team as far as the Eastern Conference championship race goes. Obviously, there is the big heavyweights of Brooklyn and Philadelphia, but I think the Heat, once again, could be a dark horse if they do land Victor Oladipo. So I'm very curious to see how a Victor Oladipo in Miami situation works out as well.
Okay, and what would you consider like a potential trade package for Victor Oladipo? There's been like we said, Victor Oladipo to the Heat. So what will we get in return for a guy like Victor Oladipo? Could we get potentially Tyler Hero? His production has been not as up to the expectations of Heat fans based on the last season's playoffs. So maybe Hero could be added along with some players for salary cap reasons or something like that, or Kendrick Nunn or KZ Okpala or someone like that. Do you think what other trade packages do you think we could get for someone like Victor Oladipo?
I think that Hero, is probably a long shot at this point. I think the Rockets are probably going to not be able to land land Tyler Hero for Victor Oladipo unless they can get PJ Tucker package into that deal. Mm-hmm. But I do feel like maybe Precious Achiuwa and Kelly Olynyk and maybe like a protected first round pick. I think that would be a pretty fair deal. The Rockets do get a nice young rookie in Precious Achiuwa, and the Miami Heat get the piece that they want. Of course, you have Kelly Olynyk in there so that salaries match. I think, or you could replace the first round pick with a guy like Kendrick Nunn or KZ Okpala, like you said. I think that either 2 of the Miami Heat's young guys, and of course Kelly Olynyk to match salary, or one of the Miami Heat young guys and a first-round pick, along with again Kelly Olynyk to match salaries. I think that would be a nice trade package for both sides.
And what about the Nuggets? I highly doubt this. I mean, I don't think the Nuggets would trade away Michael Porter Jr. Obviously, he's a very young stud, and I think maybe Depot and PJ and a first-round pick, probably the Milwaukee pick, could get it done for Michael Porter Jr. But what do you think about Depot to Nuggets?
I think it's a long shot. I mean, obviously Michael Porter Jr. has been underutilized in his role in Denver. I do feel like trading him to Houston would be very nice for the Houston Rockets, but I think it's a long shot to get Michael Porter Jr. in that deal, or even for a deal to happen between Denver and Houston. There hasn't really been any major rumors of the Denver Nuggets monitoring Victor Oladipo. It's mainly just been, the Heat and the Lakers and those teams. But if we do somehow get Michael Porter Jr., I think he would be a very nice piece to kind of build this young core in this rebuild as we're surrounding Christian Wood with more pieces for the future. I think he would fit very nicely. But yeah, I think it's a very long shot for Victor Oladipo to be sent to the Nuggets, and also for us to get Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah, I mean, we could maybe get RJ Hampton, their rookie, but yeah, like you said, I don't think the Nuggets are trading with anyone anytime soon, but maybe they can come out of nowhere. I mean, obviously, teams that usually get the players that we talk about are the ones that aren't really discussed as much. But what about, let's talk about John Wall. He actually has had some trade rumors, surprisingly. I didn't think John Wall would be moved at the trade deadline, but I highly doubt he would. But, and I would think it would be kind of hard to move John Wall, because in order to move John Wall in the first place, we had to kind of trade a guy who also had a pretty high salary in Russell Westbrook to make that happen. So what do you think about the John Wall rumors? And he's been rumored to teams like the Heat.
I think that John Wall on Miami, I think that's another very good fit for Miami. Again, another two-way player that plays very, very well on both ends of the ball. You got an elite playmaker in John Wall, one of the best guys in getting the whole team involved, the pass-first point guard. And, he brings that explosion, another guy he's going to play hard alongside guys like Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo. I think he fits that sort of Heat culture that's been very marketed by the Heat fans and the Heat team, the organization. I think John Wall would fit that culture very, very nicely. Of course, the question comes down to how are the Miami Heat going to absorb his contract, but I think that there is a way that can be worked out. But, with the salary and all of that, I think it's very tough for me to see him being moved at the trade deadline, but I could see this move happening in the offseason, maybe.
Yeah, and it makes sense for guys like Depot and John Wall to be rumored to the Heat, because it kind of fits that Jimmy Butler timeline. Because Jimmy Butler is 31 years old and John Wall is 30 years old, and I think Victor Oladipo is he's 28 years old. So it kind of makes sense for Heat to make that kind of move, trying to regain their finals run mojo in a sense. But it'll be interesting to see what the Heat do in the upcoming days. It seems like Pat Riley has been kind of reluctant to make these trades involving his young players, and it's kind of shows that kind of trust that he has in his young players to kind of step it up and develop in the future. But yeah, like I said, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think John Wall and Victor Oladipo, if either of them go to the Heat, they would both do very well in Miami. But yeah, I don't really mind either of those guys going to Miami. I think they both do very well. And it's just going to be interesting to see what happens with both of these guys, because it's obvious they're not going to be here for the long term. But I think, number one, where they go, and number two, how they do there, and number three, how the return that we get for them does for us in Houston will all be very, very interesting to monitor. And I think it's something that we should all be tuned and excited for them.
Yeah, and what about John Collins? I know he's going to be a free agent, I think after the season, if I'm not mistaken. But do you think if the Rockets want first dibs on someone like John Collins, do you think they should trade away a first-round pick or some kind of player to get someone like John Collins?
I think that John Collins would be, he would do well alongside Christian Wood. Of course, the interior defense would come into question with two not great defenders, Christian Wood and John Collins, but I feel like that would be a fun team to watch. And I feel like John Collins can finally sort of leave Trae Young's shadow, which has kind of been inhibiting his career and reportedly been causing some locker room problems between the two. I would like to see John Collins in Houston, and if it means giving up a few first-round picks from Brooklyn, I wouldn't mind it, especially if they're in the near future, because those picks are probably not going to be too valuable anyway. So John Collins to Houston, I would welcome it. I really do like John Collins' game, and I think it would do quite nicely alongside Christian Wood. Again, like I said, interior defense comes into question, but I think that's something that will be figured out eventually.
Yeah, and Christian Wood's kind of developing his defensive game. He's been averaging, I think, around 2 blocks per game or something like that. So Christian Wood's getting better, but yeah, we will have to see what Rafael Stone does by the trade deadline. He's been making all the right moves. I don't have any issue with any of the moves that he's done so far, especially involving this whole offseason with Russell Westbrook and then James Harden. So Rafael Stone has done a great job. I trusted him to make the right move. And do you have anything else to add before we end the video?
I just want to talk about potentially. Do you think that we could get Talon Tucker if we were to deal Victor Oladipo to the Lakers? And if you think we do manage to get him, how do you think he would do as a Houston Rocket?
Oh, I mean, Lakers fans are really high on Talon Horton Tucker. I think he would be great. Obviously, any young player, we need all the young players that we can get because we are kind of going through this rebuild. I think it's no surprise to any Rockets fans that we're going under a rebuild, especially with the way this team is currently going, kind of top 3 in the lottery and things like that. So I think he would do good. Obviously, he has that kind of potential. LeBron speaks very highly of him. So, I mean, that kind of is a good endorsement from one of the best players in the league. So, I think, yeah, obviously when you have Steven Silas as your head coach, you're going to do well. So, yeah, I think it would be great if we could get someone like Talon Horton Tucker.
Yeah, I agree. I think he would do very well as a Houston Rocket.
Yeah, and so that's pretty much it for the video. Let us know what you think will happen by the trade deadline. And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Thank y'all for watching. Peace.